Well, I'll be honest with you, it's been a very long time since I was so excited to review a car, and the Syros has been thoroughly excited. When I looked at the car first, I really thought, what the hell is Kia thinking? And when I looked at the car in the photos, I wasn't quite convinced. But after driving it today and having seen it on the road, having seen it in the rearview mirror, I can tell you that you really need to go and have a look at this car if you have any apprehensions. This is an interesting product, and just like me, if you have any apprehensions, you first need to watch this review till the end and experience the car from the inside to understand how Kia have tried to create a space between two existing segments without actually creating a new segment. This car is really interesting, and let me start by telling you what Kia wants to do with this car. Well, for the urban markets, people don't want sometimes their cars to be very big. They want them to be compact on the outside but spacious on the inside. And that's what this car really does. On the inside, the amount of space that you have on that back seat is insane. Second, the features on this car are top rate, and all of that makes it a very, very practical, very tech heavy car which would appeal to a lot of families and individuals as well. Now, let's talk about that design, which is somewhat controversial. And to start off, let's address the elephant in the room. Why is it so boxy? Well, the reason is simple. They want to maximize the space inside, and the very straight way to do that is to keep the dimensions very square. Also, a lot of people have been asking about this unique styling of the headlamps, and the clear answer to that is this is a nod to the new Carnival and the EV9, the new design language of Kia. So that pretty much answers your questions about why this car looks the way it does. It's to maximize the space inside and to give it its unique look, which is in line with Kia's new design language. Now, about the dimensions, this has one of the longest wheelbases, one of the tallest statures, it's one of the widest, has one of the widest tracks. It's not the outright largest car in this segment. You have the Mahindra 3XO, which takes those accolades, but this is one of the biggest cars. And the more important thing is the way they have released the space, especially in the backseat, which is absolutely astonishing. Let's carry on with the design. And as you can see, the grille that you have in a lot of other cars is absent here. You only have this lower part as the grille, and you have this beautiful Kia logo here, this lip. And if you pop open the bonnet, you would be surprised to see that this, despite being a brand new car, does not have any insulation. And what's even more surprising is that despite this being a diesel, the NVH levels inside are absolutely mind-blowing. Kia have really worked on the NVH levels of this car, and again, you have to experience it to realize what I'm talking about. Now, it gets an ADAS level 2 module, so you have the radar sitting here, you have side sensors, you have a front camera, you have the rear camera. You basically have the full functional ADAS level 2 on this car with as many as 16 features, which is one of the best in class. You have a front camera, which obviously is a part of the 360-degree camera unit. And overall, it looks like a car which has a very high bonnet, has a very SUV-ish stance. What do you think about this design? Do let me know. A small concern that a lot of people have been showing is that these headlamps are way too on the side and have a likelihood of getting scrubbed or even getting cracked. Well, that indeed is a real worry, but the bumper here extends the headlamp, so if you drive carefully, at least the obstructions which are not too high will be taken care of by the bumper. Now, coming towards the side, you can see these big windows which allow you to have a good look outside, make the cabin really airy and spacious, and the ground clearance is 190 mm unladen, will allow you to go over rough surfaces without a problem. Those 17-inch wheels are one of the best in class. They are shod with 215 section tires, squared off wheel arches, and the roof rails are also quite squarish. They are bridge type and they look quite nice. Also, the door handles here are flush fitting, and I'll show you how they work. In a bit, you have a decent amount of door cladding as well with this satin silver finish inlay. The B pillar is very thick, and again, from the side, this car has a very unique character. It also gets this big quarter panel at the rear, which allows for even more light inside and makes the cabin feel even more spacious. The wheel arches at the back also, just like the front, are squared out. And about the wheels, these wheels are 17-inch. On the mid-spec, you will get 16-inch alloys, and on the lower variant, you will get 15-inch rims with a full cap. Now, similar is the case with the headlamps as well. So while here you will get full LED lighting, On the lower spec variants, you'll get a halogen on top, which basically is the low beam, and a projector LED, which is the high beam. And this DRL will be replaced by an ornamentation. So the headlight and tail light design, of course, for the lower variants will be different as compared to the top of the line HTX and HTX Plus variants. Now, look at this car from the top, and the size of this sunroof is massive. So panoramic sunroof in this class of cars, absolutely fantastic. Opens up the skies to you. Another big USP of this car, gets a shark fin antenna as standard on all the variants. And coming towards the rear, here is something that would remind you of another car from an Indian car maker. Do let me know in the comment section which car I'm talking about. On the lower variants, you won't have this as a lit unit, it will just be a reflector, but here it is an LED unit. And the tail lamp cluster here, while most of it is LED, the turn indicator is a bulb. On the lower variants, you have other elements also in the form of a bulb. You have this integrated spoiler and a very clean look, just like the front at the rear as well. A flat cut tailgate, and this is to ensure that the boot space here is class leading at 465 liters. When you slide, you heard me right, you can slide these seats forward and then you'll have enormous amounts of space. Right now the seats have been brought all the way back, and still we are able to fill the space up with these suitcases. So in terms of space, if boot space is one of your priorities, then this car has one of the best boot spaces. As I mentioned, the space inside and the comfort is the USPs of this car, and we'll step inside just in a second. But before that, let me just show you what is underneath that floorboard. So as a spare, you get a 15-inch steel rim with 195 section tire. You get illumination here, and the seats, as you can see, are 60-40 split. You also get this parcel tray or parcel shelf. This here is the reverse light, and as you can see, the turn indicators are bulbs. And while we are on the subject, you would also do well to know that the blinkers up front are integrated with the DRLs. Up front and at the rear, it gets scuff plates, which obviously are not functional, they are for decor only. And overall, it is a boxy, oddball kind of a car, but like I mentioned, when you see it on the road, especially when it's in motion, it looks a lot different from how it appears in the pictures. So go ahead and do have a look at the car in the showroom and on the road as well. Let's move on to the interiors. Now this is the key for this car. It is covered with a lot of stickers, so you won't be able to see exactly how it looks. But the cool trick that this car has is, just like the Volkswagens of yore, you can now bring down all 4 windows just with the press of the unlock button, and it allows for ventilation before you get inside the car. Also, you can bring those windows up by long pressing the lock button, like so. Now, as you approach the car, the ORVMs will fold out to welcome you, and in order to open the doors, if you want to pull it out like this, it won't open. You have to press this once like this, and then it will open like so. The doors open quite wide, and just look at that interior. The color and the upholstery on this car is quite unlike anything else in the segment. Very tastefully appointed interior, and the color palette is absolutely amazing. It looks very Scandinavian, very Nordic to me. Very, very nicely appointed colors. Let's talk about the interior of this car now. You also have a puddle lamp which projects the Kia logo onto the ground here, and as you open the door, you'll be welcomed by something that you don't generally see in cars of this class. This entire panel is soft to touch. This is something that you won't generally see in cars of this class. Although this part is hard plastic, but the quality of the plastics is fantastic. You have this little space here to put your wallet or something else, and the controls for seat ventilation are right here. All 4 windows are one touch up and down, not just front but at the rear as well, which again is a fantastic feature for this car. Window lock and the controls for the electric ORVM sit right here, and these are the door pulls which have been finished in a shade of titanium. Very generous space for bottles, and you can place in fact 2 water bottles here. It gets a Harman Kardon 8 speaker system which sounds fantastic, and it also gets this highlight which, even with that little touch, raises the style quotient of this car. It also gets electric 4-way adjustable seats for the driver, not for the passenger, and the height adjustment is manual. One very impressive thing about this car is the quality of the seat padding. It's quite firm. If you compare it with the other cars in the segment, the padding here is on the firmer side and the foam is of a higher quality. Like I mentioned, the interplay of colors, dark and light grey along with this nice highlight in a light orange makes this cabin look very nice and classy. Something that you won't come across in other cars, and I really must congratulate Kia to have designed this interior so beautifully. Although you will get it in 4 different shades depending on the variant that you choose. This is not the only color scheme. So depending on the variant that you choose, the color scheme on the inside will be different. Seat height is just about perfect, and generally in this segment the cars are about the right height. The steering wheel is double D cut. It looks beautiful. It's a 2-spoke unit and it gets drive modes and traction modes as separate buttons, and while the ADAS controls sit here, the MID controls sit here, lane keep assist buttons are here, cruise control button is here, and the volume and telephony buttons sit right here. The Kia logo is slightly offset, and there are 3 screens which you probably won't be able to see. Kia calls it the Trinity panoramic screen. So there's a 12.3-inch unit here, another 12.3-inch unit for the instrument console, and for the fully automatic temperature control you have another 5-inch screen that sits right here. What's also impressive is the quality of the AC louvers, and generally you have these louvers or notches in a very small size and they are prone to break, but this is very robustly built. You have auto hold and electronic parking brake buttons here and traction control off button here. Headlight level controls sit here, and another great feature that you have is that you get these steel pedals on the top variants with these rubber grips. This is the bonnet release, and here you have the fuel cap release lever. Now a small gripe I have is that for such a feature laden car I don't have telescopic adjustment for the steering wheel. It's only tilt adjustable, but that's okay. The stocks here are also new and they look very nice, very robust, and the controls are also very easy. This car also comes with high beam assist, so you don't really have to fiddle around with the stock for controlling the high or low beam. It is thanks to the camera and the ADAS level 2, and this car can control the low and high beam all by itself. Now talking about this beautiful central screen, what it gets is Kia Connect 2.0, and it gets OTA updates for all the ECU functions also. So this is the next generation system. This infotainment system is deeply connected with the brain of the car, and the OTA updates on this car can also upgrade the controllers on the car. So generally on the previous generation cars, what happens is the OTA updates are only for the navigation or for the infotainment, but here it can also update the software for the critical functions of the car, which can enhance its performance. Also with this new generation system, diagnosis can be done online over the air, and a lot of faults of the car can be found out by the customer support executives while they're sitting far away. So this is the next generation Kia Connect system, and this is for the first time that this system has been introduced on a mass market car. Earlier this was available on the Carnival as well as the EV9. And this comes with a 64 color ambient lighting, and let's also have a look at the 360-degree camera on this car. It's a Kia, so you would expect it to be fantastic, and fantastic it is. Beautiful display, very crisp, and you can have a look at the rear as well as the front. You can bring the camera on by using this button here, and this here gives you the front view. The full panoramic 360-degree view can be had on this side. All the camera settings can be seen here. Now coming back to this screen, as you can see, the iconography is very different from what we have seen before, and now everything is laid out very, very neatly. It also gets native maps. For the first time on Kia cars, for such big screens, you are getting wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Earlier, such features are not available on the bigger screens, so the big 12.3-inch screens now finally get wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The good thing is that you have a lot of physical buttons here as well. You go to setup and you'll get very neatly laid icons for all the functions on the car, and there are no further deep menus to go to here. So everything is laid out on this one screen here, and you can access every function of this car right from this screen, which is fantastic. Now, like I mentioned, the AC controls have a separate 5-inch screen, and all the controls for the AC can be controlled with a simple touch here. So everything from blower to AC, recycle, and the mode can be controlled using this little screen here. Now this car also gets voice commands, and it's quite fast, so the response to the voice commands is also very quick. Let me give you a demo. Hey Kia, open the sunroof.
Opening the sunroof.
Hey Kia, close the sunroof.
Closing the sunroof.
Now, like I mentioned, you also have a lot of hard buttons. You can also customize this specific button. So you have the controls for setup, custom button, media. You have this volume button here, which can also be long pressed to shut the screen off. And you have the search button for searching whatever you want to search for in the navigation screen. And you have this dedicated navigation button and the home button. And you also have these physical buttons for the AC controls. So all of that has been taken care of very nicely, and I'm glad that there are physical buttons for key controls, because sometimes trying to fiddle with the screen can distract you from the road. Now, another great thing is that you have this 12 volt power socket, 180 watts, a dedicated power USB-C socket, and you have this USB-C socket which can be used for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and if you press this once, can be used only for charging as well. You get wireless charging, and the material here is very nicely done, very soft to touch, and I also like the shade on this. The drive selector lever has also been done in a very beautiful shade, and it's also very nice to hold as well. You also get engine start stop, this parking sensor button, and the 360-degree camera dedicated button as well. Now, another great feature is that this space here can be used for storage purposes, and anything from your wallet to your cell phone to anything else can be put here, and it's a very usable space. But what Kia have done very intelligently is that they have made it into a retractable cup slash bottle holder as well, and once you push this button, the cup holder comes out. So it's a dual use storage space. You also have this armrest, and there is even more space underneath as well. I would have wished this armrest to be sliding so that I could have adjusted it to my liking, but what the hell, this is still very comfortable. The seats are very comfortable, and another great thing that you'll find here is that this sun visor can be extended. It's quite big, and it is indeed very effective in blocking the sun. The headliner is of a decent quality. It's not the best quality that I've seen, but it's definitely better than the fleece quality that you get on some other cars. On the passenger side, you do get a vanity mirror, but you don't have illumination. The ORVM is auto dimming. And in terms of storage spaces, this little crevice that you see here is also very useful. You can just put your cell phone or wallet or whatever here, and it won't fall down even as the car accelerates or brakes. So that again is a fantastic feature. The color scheme and the materials here are also of a very high order, and I really like what Kia have done with the overall colors and materials on this car. The glove box is reasonably sized, although this is not cooled. Seat belts are also not adjustable. And in terms of safety, this car comes with 6 airbags as standard, and what Kia have done is that they have improved the K1 platform. They have made extensive use of hot stamped steel and high strength steel on this car. They have enforced it. They have reinforced it in critical places to make sure that the strength of this car is a lot more than the previous generation cars, and they are targeting for a 5-star rating. And the safety of this car is compounded by the fact that this comes with level 2 ADAS functions. So 6 airbags, ADAS functions, a lot of electronics based safety features, and a reinforced structure would hopefully allow this car to get a 5-star rating in the BNCAP ratings. Now let's also have a look at the panoramic sunroof of this car, and just look at the size of that sunroof. It's absolutely fascinating for a car this segment, and since it's a boxy design, it allows the sunroof to be even bigger, and it extends all the way back. So if you're sitting in the back seat also, you'll get a sense of airiness and spaciousness. The opening on the car also is quite massive, and it's one of the best sunroofs that you'll come across, not just in this segment but across segments. You also get this sunglasses holder. Can it hold my sunglasses properly? Let's see. Yes, it can. In addition to all of that, you get light controls, and you can have this for the door. You can turn the lights on individually or both of them at once. The seat quality, as I mentioned, is of a very high order. The foam quality is very good. There is good support, and the fact that this car has a very wide track allows it to be wide on the inside. And even for people who are heftily built, I really think that this car would come across as a more spacious one. The seats are very accommodating, especially for people who are larger in size, and that I think also will be a USP for this car. Now another thing that you would do well to know is that the instrument console can be customized. So this is the classic theme, and you can change it to the simple theme also, which is like this. And on top of this, for example, in the classic theme, you can choose another theme based on whether you are in eco, normal or sport mode. So in all, you have 6 different instrument cluster modes or themes to choose from. So as you can see, the interior of this car is really impressive in terms of the features and in terms of the touch and feel, the color appointment and everything. The seats are very comfortable, but that's still not the best part about this interior. What Kia claims, according to their internal data, this car has the most amount of headroom both up front and at the rear, most amount of legroom and most amount of shoulder room both up front and at the rear. And I somewhat agree. You'd be surprised to see how comfortable the back seat is, and it's time for us to go there and see how Kia have very ingeniously extracted space out of nowhere and made the back seat of this car the most comfortable, not just in the segment but probably more comfortable than the cars a segment above. Let's check it out. Now first and foremost, just look at the amount of knee room I have. And this is by virtue of the fact that these seats are sliding. You can slide them all the way forward and way back like this, and in no other car in the sub 4 meter segment would you find so much knee room. Not just that, there is ample and more space for my feet also to move about. And like I mentioned, the foam quality here is also of a very high order, and like all of that was not sufficient, the recline angle on this car is also absolutely mind-blowing. So if you're traveling as a backbencher, this car has the most comfortable seat in its class, and like I mentioned, even better than some of the cars a segment above, and that's such a compliment for a car in the sub 4 meter segment. The armrest here is also just at the right height. It gets 2 cup holders, and just look at the amount of headroom that I have. I am 5 feet 10, and I don't think that even if you're 6 feet or taller, you'll have any problem whatsoever. And the boxy tall boy design on this car really helps release a lot of space for the head and for the shoulders as well. What's also special is that you get these blinds to block the sun. The quality of the materials, as I mentioned, is of the top order, and as an icing on the cake, you also get seat ventilation. However, it's only for the squab, it's not for the backrest. So for the squab, you get seat ventilation which can be adjusted to 3 different levels, and there is storage for a 1 liter water bottle right here. And like I mentioned before, the windows go up and down with just one touch. You also get a proper 3-point seat belt. You also get this little crevice to maybe put your wallet or cell phone, 2 power sockets, and you also get an air purifier. How cool is that? And of course you get these AC vents. Now as you can see, the back of the front seat is scooped out, and that also releases a lot of space for your knees. All in all, this is absolutely astounding, the amount of space and comfort that you have in this place, and it's complemented by the fact that you get this massive quarter panel of a window, and it allows for a lot of light to come inside. You get these reading lights, and like I showed you from the front, the panoramic sunroof comes all the way back, and it allows for even more airiness. So for a sub 4 meter car, this car has no business to allow for so much space and practicality. I'm really impressed with the space and the comfort that you have here. If I only had to nitpick, I would probably say that I would have wanted to have a third individual adjustable headrest here, and that is a bit of an omission, but what the hell, Kia have provided for so much here that I won't really complain. But take my word for it, if you want the most comfortable back seat in this segment, there is absolutely no competition to this car. Now, before I get out, I would also do well to let you know that the width of the car is also extraordinary. So if you want to be traveling with 5 on board, again, this is one of the standout cars in the segment. Now the engine options on this car are very familiar. The 1.5 liter diesel and the 1 liter turbo petrol. The diesel produces 115 PS and 250 Newton meters, and the petrol produces 120 PS and 172 Newton meters. Of the two, the petrol is the more eager and the more enthusiast friendly, and the diesel, at least in the manual guise, is more fuel efficient and it's more relaxed and quite refined. So if you're someone who still believes in the frugality of diesel, you can go with the diesel. The diesel comes with a 6-speed manual and a 6-speed automatic. That's the one that I'm driving right now. And the petrol now comes with, for the first time on a Kia, a manual as well. So you get the 1 liter turbo with a 6-speed manual also now, and of course the 7-speed DCT. Now changes have been made to the suspension. The track here is wider, so this car rides a lot more planted. It feels like it has a bigger imprint on the road, and the suspension has been tuned for comfort. This car is all about comfort. So there is a wee bit of body roll. So especially if you're coming from the Sonnet where the ride quality is quite firm, this one has a lot more give. On bad broken road, this has a lot more compliance, it's a lot more comfortable. And from behind the steering wheel also, it feels like it's a lot more stable, it's a lot more at ease. The suspension on the Sonnet is a lot more busy. You can always feel that the suspension is up to something. It's a lot more relaxed here. So from a comfort perspective, this car definitely is a lot better. The NVH characteristics of this car have also been refined, and there's absolutely no sound coming in from the outside. So the NVH characteristics are also fantastic. The fuel efficiency on the diesel, the one that I'm driving on the highway, you'll get about 17 kmpl. Within the city, you'll get about 14. If you go for the manual diesel, you'll get about 19 to 20 kmpl on the highway and about 15 to 16 within the city. The 1 liter turbo petrol with DCT will give you about 17 to 18 on the highway and about 13 to 14 within the city. And if you go for the manual version, that fuel efficiency will be slightly better. All in all, there is absolutely nothing to complain about this car except the fact that this is not a sporty car per se. If you're someone who's an enthusiast who wants to drive his car very fast, wants a firm suspension, then this one is a little bit roly-poly. It has a little bit of body roll, and it's not one of the tautest of the car to be driven around corners, but around a set of bends, if you're not overly enthusiastic, it holds its line pretty well and feels very sturdy. It has a very wide stance, so it feels very planted. And for the days when you want to have some fun, you of course have the paddle shifters, so you can shift gears as per your will. And the 6-speed automatic here works rather well. You also get goodies like this blind view monitor, so whenever you turn the signal, you get a good view of what's happening around. The ADAS features on this car work beautifully well. You have as many as 16 features. So 13 of them are driver assistance features and 3 of them are parking assistance features. And it is one of the most generous sets out there. So if you're an ADAS fan, this car has a very, very generous set of features. All in all, I really think if you want something which is comfortable, something which is efficient, and something which is no fuss, both petrol and diesel options on this car work like a charm, and you cannot go wrong with either one of them. Also, like I mentioned before, you get these 2 dedicated buttons. So you have 3 modes to choose from: Eco, Normal and Sport. And you also have 3 traction modes. You can choose from snow, mud and sand modes. So if you are in a bit of a rut where the 2-wheel drive system is not able to pull itself out easily, you have these ESC based systems which come to your rescue and allow you some leverage to get out of a tricky situation. All in all, I have absolutely no complaints with the way this car drives. It's not an enthusiast's car, but for all practical purposes, the suspension is very beautifully set up. The steering isn't the tautest or the most feelsome that I've had, but for, as I mentioned, all practical purposes, this is just about fine. There is absolutely no problem. And with the keyword comfort in your mind, I don't think you can go wrong with this car. Now you can have this car in 8 different monotone colors, and all the colors can be seen on the screen right now. Now generally I would want to get out of the car and talk about the pricing and the comparison with other cars in the segment from the outside, but this back seat is so comfortable, I don't want to get out. And in terms of positioning, this will sit somewhere between the Sonnet and the Seltos. And while the Sonnet starts from about 8 lakh rupees and goes to about 16 lakh rupees, the Seltos starts from 11 and goes all the way to 21 lakh rupees. The prices for the Kia Syros start from 9 lakh rupees and goes all the way to 17.8 lakh rupees. The respective features of all the variants of the Kia Syros can be seen on the screen right now. That's pretty much it, guys. If you want something that is compact from the outside, big, feature rich and really comfortable from the inside, you really cannot buy a car without test driving this one. In terms of comfort, features and space, this car really stands out. And like I told you when I started, I had my own apprehensions, but they've been blown away. And so would be your apprehensions if you drive and experience this car. I really hope that I was able to answer all your questions about this amazing new car from Kia. Still, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I'll be very happy to answer them. If you like this long format, informative video, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids. And until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.